Thank you so much. I'm going to try something here. They wired me up, so maybe I can actually walk around and speak, which is kind of a different concept. We usually have to stand at our desk and do that. So,
You're coming through.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to try turning that one off so I don't get a bunch of backwash. Great. Thank you so much for having me here this evening. I was going to introduce my wife and my pledge director, but that was taken care of for me. I really appreciate it. I want to thank Nancy and all of you folks for coming out this evening and just having a conversation about what's happened in our state and in Sacramento and in the district, quite frankly. It's been quick, fast learning curve down in Sacramento. So I want to impress you with a few things that really will make a difference in Sacramento. And the one thing is that we're in a super minority. The Republican Party is in a super minority, which makes it very difficult to do anything. We need to pick up 3 seats in the Assembly, and we need to pick up, I think it's 2 in the Senate to get to the 2/3 threshold. It would be great to have more than that, but that would be the minimum. And why I say that is because if every single Republican that is elected in the Assembly votes against a bill, and it's a 2/3 bill, it still gets out of the Assembly. You only need 41 votes to get a bill out. So by saying that, I mean they have a lot of extra votes there that we quite frankly don't have. So I want to start out with just saying something that I think is very important to California, which is to get us out of a super minority. And I wanted to talk a little bit real quick about how we can do that, and then I'm going to get into all kinds of stuff, and more than that, I'm going to want to listen to you, because that's what my job is to do. But we had an opportunity with a special election. Andy Vidak is in the Central Valley, and he went up against, it was an almost 20-point Democrat seat, and we won that seat and put a Republican in office. Megan and I and my family went down in July and actually walked precincts in 116-degree weather. But I tell you, that's what it takes. It takes boots on the ground. It takes a grassroots. It takes money. But it takes a commitment to get out and vote and to make sure that the votes that are there are counted correctly. And we did all those things. I want to back up for a second and talk about the last election cycle that I happened to go through. And I want to talk to you a little bit about what I see as an issue for Republicans. We spend a lot of resources and a lot of time battling Republicans in Republican districts. And I say that this is a Republican district that I represent. But I ran, as you guys all remember, I ran against another Republican, a Republican and a Democrat, an independent, and a Green guy to start out. And it ended up to be 2 Republicans in the race. So no matter what we knew, we were going to get a Republican out of this district. There was about $1.5 million spent. Well, actually, in 3 districts where there were Republicans on Republicans, we spent like $3 million in the state. We lost a seat, the Fox seat, by 145 votes. We didn't spend any money in that seat. We thought that was a safe Republican seat. So those things, and I know that was talked about at the convention some about how the process is going to work. But quite frankly, we need to be smart. We don't have an unlimited amount of resources to use on putting Republicans in office. And we need to be smart about how we spend those dollars. So I think that's coming forward out of the Republican side, and I would encourage anybody here to really think about where you spend your dollars or send your dollars. I would recommend highly that we use those on Republican versus Democrat instead of Republican versus Republican, because at the end of the day, you can have the most perfect Republican you want in Sacramento, but if he can't accomplish anything, it doesn't matter. We need to have numbers, because even with the 25 we have, you won't get on any given day 10 of us to all agree that we need to move in the right direction. So it's very difficult to try to get 25 of us all going the same way. So I need another 15 so I can get to it. You understand what I'm saying? I need the more numbers, the better off we are. So I wanted to just open up with that, because I think that's one of the most important things for the party itself in this next go-around cycle. And on top of that, we have the ability to be there for 12 years. You're going to have legislators in office for some time, which I think is a good thing. The average time frame for an assembly member under the 6-year term cycle was 3.8 years. In 3.8 years, you can't get to know your job, get really good staff, and get something done. Most legislators aren't going to be able to do that. I happen to be lucky. I served 16 years on a board of supervisors where I had some background in doing policy. But for a lot of these members, it's a real change because they came out of an area where they don't have that legislative experience. So I think that the 12-year term limits are going to be great for California. It gives them stability, gives people to become experts in their field, and other members rely on them. With that being said, I wanted to say, my first year in office, I think I did a great job. We got some legislation passed I want to talk about in a little bit. But I want to just kind of give you my philosophy on when I went to Sacramento, what was the things that I focused on, and that was to bring members to my district. We talk about the North States, and I represent 25,000 square miles of California. So I represent a lot of the water, a lot of the timber, a lot of the used to be mining, hunting, all the natural resources things are a lot of my district. So I have members who have never been, some of the members have never been north of the Sacramento airport. And we took 9 of them up into Siskiyou County. We went through a plywood mill. We took them out in the forest. We talked about forestry. Those are the type of things that I'm trying to get members out of the district. We had a tour up here to Nevada County. We went to the Empire Mine. We went and looked at a fire break. We went out to, I can't remember, say it, Combi, and looked at the silt coming in behind the reservoir there. So with those, Bear River. So I'm sorry, I got a lot of district. I know a lot of parts of it, but I don't know every dam and every. I know the main rivers, but I don't know every single spot in the whole district. And I hope to get to know it. I hope to get a member from the legislature out there, and together we can learn. But my goal was I threw out to them, if you'll come to my district, I'll go to your district. Because really, at the end of the day, it's about relationships. It doesn't matter your political background. Obviously, there are some things, that the Republicans and Democrats are never going to get along. But there are a lot of things that we agree on. And we all want clean water. We all want a good forest. We all want jobs. Those are all things we talk about wanting. So let's work on some of those things. And not sit there and beat our heads against the wall at each other on the things we disagree with. So by doing that, we were able to get 9 members into the district, and we gave them a tour. We took them out, like I said, and so at the end of the session, I didn't. If you guys remember when I campaigned, I don't think we need any more laws. I think we have too many laws, and I'm in business. I don't want any more regulation. I don't want any more laws. I got enough to deal with as it is. So I only carried a couple of bills. We carried 3 bills. And a couple of AGRs, which was an AGR is Assembly Joint Resolution, which basically is it could be Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It can be, but mine were to urge Congress to reauthorize the Secure Rural Schools funding for our rural schools. So I have a couple of AGRs, but anyway, I got all my bills except for one that I'm still working on. That is a 2-year bill signed into law. And so I'm very excited about it. And along with getting those bills signed, I also got a 100% rating from the California Taxpayers Association. One of 14 members in the whole 120. So I'm going to give a lot of credit to Sherry. I cannot tell you how blessed I am to have a 14-year veteran in the Capitol to go to work for me. She's my ledge director, and we sit down, the 2 of us, and we go through all these bills, thousands of bills. And, there's some of them we read the first 2 paragraphs, and we don't have to read any further because we know that's an absolute no. Like all these gun legislation ones. Those are easy for us. I think there was one that I voted on. I voted yes on. I think it was a child lock or something. But anyway, it's hard, and it's very hard to keep track of. Someone will come to me and go, hey, bill number 122, AB 122, I have no idea what you're talking about. Because there's thousands of them. And there's AB1X and AB1. So anyway, so it's helpful if you're going to talk to me, you need to give me a chance to digest it and actually sit down with Sherry and get back to you on it. But back to my legislation. So I did submit some bills. I did a bill for Modoc County. It was my first bill. It was an elections bill. 9 other counties had already did what I asked the legislature to do. It went out unanimous. The governor signed it. It basically helps the elections, helps the county save money, and it was a no-brainer bill. The second bill I had was it's a bill that you're going to see when you go to the polls. It's an elections bill, and this bill basically, one of the things I was very frustrated with as a county supervisor is when you go out and gather signatures to get something put on the ballot, that's because you're usually frustrated that the legislature didn't put it on the ballot, right? And so, but then a lot of times the legislature will put something on the ballot, and there's no distinction between who got signatures and which legislative body put it on the ballot. So the general public out there thinks, wow, somebody went out and gathered signatures, so the people really must be, this is a grassroots operation. So my bill says it'll be on there who put the legislation up, whether it's the Tea Party or whether it's the California Taxpayers Association, whether it's the Assembly, whether it's the County Board of Supervisors, the Water District. It will define who put it on there. So I think that's a key feature. Because really, that's good policy, right? The voter needs to be informed on who's doing what to them. And a lot of times you'll have the people will gather the signatures, and then the legislators don't like what they gathered up to put on there, so they'll put a competing measure up against your measure, right? And confuse the words. So that's really, I'm hoping that the voter will understand why we try to clarify that for them at the polls. So that'll come on your sample ballot, you'll be able to read it, and hopefully it'll educate you a bit. The last bill I got into law was an exciting bill for me. It was AB 744. I'll give you a number. That's one I can remember. So, if you recall, I mentioned earlier about the bringing the legislators up, and so I got a tip from. I want to talk for a second before I get into the bill a little bit about the dynamics of Sacramento. So there's 54 Democrats and 25. There should be 55, but there's one missing right now. But anyway, there's 54 Democrats. Not all the Democrats are marching to the same drum. They don't all get along. Quite frankly, there are personality issues on their side, just like there are on ours. And so I learned that, and they're some of those people are very powerful people. They run committees, and if you have a bill and they don't like your bill, it's not going to see the daylight when it gets out of committee. So, it's trying to figure out how you're going to negotiate through the process if you're going to try to actually get something done. So I want to just disclose one thing right out of the gate. I am not a legislator who's going to run a bill that doesn't have a chance of getting out. Just to go back to my district and say, I sponsored legislation and make you feel good that I sponsored legislation that I know is not going to get out of committee. That to me is a waste of taxpayer money because it costs money to print all that stuff for all the staff in the year, and the bill is not going to go anywhere. So I want to actually be successful in the legislation that I'm trying to run. With that being said, we go back to about, how many days was it before the election? Or before the end of session? 6? 6 days before the session, one of my Democrat friends says to me, you should run a timber bill. Because I've had them out in the district, they know I'm passionate about doing something about the fires we're having in the state. So I'm thinking, 6 days left. The deadline's passed months ago. In February, you can't even put a bill in. Well, there's a process to basically hijack somebody else's bill, put your language in it, and do it. They do it all the time. They do it all the time. There's bills that they do right on the floor that we haven't even seen very much information about. So I went to Sherry and I'm like, hey, I got a tip. Maybe we should try to run a timber bill, which would be good, which I've talked about for some time. And so we're about trying to figure out how to do it. So anyway, make a long story short, Rich Gordon, who came up here, actually has a home here somewhere, and was on one of my tours, had a bill in natural resources. It was 744 was the bill, and it was in the perfect committee for me to be able to go and move my legislation. So I went and asked Rich. I said, hey, I got to ask you a question. Can I hijack your bill? And he just kind of laughed. What are you going to do? I mean, it's 6 days before. There's not much time to get anything done. I said, I want to run a timber bill. And he said, so I told him what I wanted to do, and he said, heck, I'll just co-author with you. How's that sound? So now you got Democrat, Republican. We make a long story short, we were opposed by the Sierra Club at every step of the way, and we ended up getting the bill to the Assembly, and it was 11:45. It came up, and 12 o'clock is the deadline for the legislature. And I introduced the bill on the floor, and I got 75 yes votes and 1 no vote. It's exciting to know that AB 744 is the bill. Let me tell you what it does. That's the best question. So Doug LaMoffa ran a bill, they call it the LaMoffa exemption actually, and it allowed you as a private landowner to reduce the fuel on your property, trees up to 18 inches, without doing a timber harvest plan. Okay, so this bill increased the diameter to 24 inches. So you could go, now here's the issue with, is that it costs a lot of money to do a timber harvest plan, and there's no return back for most landowners. 18 inches is not a very big tree, and you have all these little trees you have to remove, which cost a ton of money. So it ends up costing, in most cases, for a landowner to do good forestry and make their forest resistant to fire, or not resistant, but let the fire get down on the floor where it belongs and naturally burn. We've been putting out forest fires for 60 years. Forest fires, naturally, we did the weeding of our forest. When we were here, lightning strike, it burned for months sometimes, but it burned low, cool, and to the floor. That's why they left all these big trees, was because the fire wasn't as intense. Now, you have an intense fire because you have so many trees. We used to have 200 trees per acre, we have 2,000 trees, which, by the way, are all sucking water out of the ground, getting stressed. The bugs fight them. They can't fend off the bugs, and they die, and lightning strikes. We have catastrophic events. We have water quality issues. We have air quality issues. So, quite frankly, what I explained to most of my friends on the other side, and Republicans who didn't understand what I was doing, is that if you truly care about global warming, which is the topic number 1 down there, a growing forest, one that's alive, sequesters carbon. Right? One that's dying and burning emits carbon. So what do we want? We want a live forest that sequesters carbon. We want the canopy to be opened up, which allows the snow to get to the floor of the forest, where it can recharge our groundwater. It's not laying up in the limbs, evaporating as the wind blows every day. So I just did those simple things, the same things we do on the farm. We weed anything that I plant in my field that I didn't put there is a weed. Right? I want only the seeds that I put in the field to grow. So same basic concept, but with forestry. So I made that pitch, and we got 75 yes votes to 1 no vote. So those are the things that I want to continue to work on, is building those relationships, educating, and I always say, my wife thinks this is very corny, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So I will be and I don't care what party you're from, what race you are, what religion you are. I don't care anybody that stuff. If you and I can agree on something that's going to better California, I will work with you on it. So I get a lot of criticism from some of my Tea Party folks about, I talk to liberals and people who don't think like us, and that's absolutely correct. I do, and I will continue to. Because, look, we need to unify. America's a great place. I love this country. I love this state. The difference